8 years in charge for Sean Dyche at Burnley. Jose Mourinho approaching his first year in charge of Spurs. So how would you view the evolution of Spurs under Jose Mourinho so far?
I think ordinarily, if a manager had been in his seat for 12 months, you'd be in a position to judge whether he's doing a really good job, whether he's on the right track or whether things aren't quite right. And I think with Jose Mourinho in this first 12 months at Spurs, I'm not quite sure yet where it's at. And I think probably there are a couple of reasons for that. One, the previous team to that was really successful in Spurs' team. They didn't win a trophy, but they were successful in terms of how they performed compared to their history. And secondly, I think there is an element of... I played against Jose Mourinho's teams in his early management career. Porto, Chelsea, they were the most outstanding football teams. The Inter Milan team was outstanding. He had success at Real Madrid winning leagues. But in the last few years, he's been labelled, and I think it's hurt him a little bit, with a certain style of play, almost like a non-dominant possession style of football. And I think the way in which the game's gone in his last few years and the perception of the game through the coaching style of, say, Pep Guardiola, when they both came to Manchester, Pep and Jose, it was almost like a face-off between them, and Pep won hands down. And I think that hurt probably Jose. And I think his time spent in the media, maybe after the Manchester United job, he's probably the club are going through a transition, Tottenham, out of a successful period with Pochettino, but I also feel like Jose's going through a transition into a second phase of his career, whereby he's trying to adapt his own style of management maybe. He looks very relaxed on that interview there. Different than maybe when he did it was at Manchester United, where he did look a little bit he looked a little bit angry at times and a little bit unhappy. I think he looks really happy at Spurs. And there's definitely been a change this season in Spurs. If you just look at these stats here, not huge changes, but the possession is higher, more successful passes, more chances created in open play, more short passes, which I think is some of the key stats. And this big one at the bottom, obviously, is a huge change in terms of the goalkeepers passing, out from the back a lot more. I always thought when I was watching Spurs last season, I always felt like they didn't have an idea about how to get from back to front through midfield. I always felt as though they struggled to understand how they could play through that midfield. Whereas now when I watch them, they look a lot more connected. I think Jose's got a different coaching setup now than he's had maybe historically. And it feels to me like he's going through that transition. So it's probably too early to answer the question. We have to accept where Spurs are at. We have to accept the job that Jose's doing and the fact he's brought new players in. I think in 6 months' time, we'll know a lot more. And that's not sort of dodging the question, but I think it's just giving you some background into how I feel about the job that Jose's done, because I think there are circumstances that mean we've got to wait a bit longer.